Our God can part the sea. Our God can walk on water. Our God sets the stars in the sky. There is nothing our God cannot do. Please sing with me, All Earth is Waiting. That's perfect. Can we talk about snow geese? Snow geese. I mean, come on. They're a wonder. And if you've ever lived in the prairies, snow geese come twice a year and they cover the fields like snow. They look like snow. In fact, from any distance, you kind of, well, not from right close up, but from any distance on the highway as you're driving, there are just, you'll think, well, what's that snow doing there? It's 5 degrees outside, or it's 8 degrees outside. It's snow geese on their way up or back, one other way, up north or down south, and they're gleaning, and they're eating grain, and they're picking away at things, and they're happy, and there can be miles of them. And I don't know if you've heard them the last few weeks, up in the sky, honking their way past us. At least I imagine it's snow geese. It's white when I look up. Sometimes they fly at night, and they look like a white cloud. Yeah, have you ever seen that? Their underbellies at night, you look up, and it's like, what's that white cloud? Of course, the fact that the cloud is honking helps. But sometimes I've seen, I remember Saskatchewan once, just like a quiet cloud going by at like 10 o'clock at night in the dark. And it's this white, it's beautiful snow geese. Anyway, I heard them honking. I could not see them a couple nights ago, but they honked their way over Kilchenna Park. And I just thought, oh, Dorothy, did you hear them a couple nights ago? You see, Dorothy and I were always on the watch out for snow geese. And I heard them honking. I just thought, oh, people have been watching those snow geese forever. Snow geese for centuries, snow geese for millennia in this place as they go up and back. It's one of the largest migrations on the earth, is the snow geese migration, right up there with the caribou. You can look that up because David Attenborough told me. Millions and millions of snow geese for millions and millions of years, well, let's say thousands and thousands of years, not to get into any biological evolutionary problems. Thousands of years, snow geese have been flying over this area. Thousands of years, people have been listening to them and watching them and hunting them and eating them and enjoying their presence and their interconnectedness with us all. as we stand here on the unceded ancestral territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish people. Let us remember to look up, to listen, to look at each other, and to listen, and to give thanks and joy for each other's presence and our interconnectedness with one another and with the snow geese as we work towards right relationships and a good way forward. Good morning and welcome to Shaughnessy Heights United Church. I got a little misty there about snow geese. Sorry, lost my train of thought, but that's creation for you. I'm glad that you're all gathered here. I'm glad that you've gathered online and that we can be gathered in one spirit together here in this place. I don't have a lot of announcements because we're getting down later parts of Advent, so our programs kind of drop away, but our worship gets increased. So there's a service of solace this week, 6 p.m. on Tuesday night. 6 p.m., service of solace. It'll go from 6 till about 6:45, and then we have a Vision Council meeting. I'm not hearing anybody say, yay, you're not coming to the, okay, well, you can come to the Vision Council meeting. But anyway, service of solace, 6 p.m. Here in the sanctuary. Thanks to Reverend Deb for leading that time. And that's, we've called it Blue Christmas or Longest Night of the Year service, or it has many, many names, but we're going to call it a service of solace, and it's at 6 p.m. Then, I know what you're thinking. On the 24th, are we really worshiping 3 times? Yes, we are. And you can come to all of them. It's going to be so fun. It's like the old days of Woodlawn United Church. You just go and you camp out and you stay there. Will a lunch be served in the middle? No. But you can bring a bag lunch and you can come and stay from the morning straight on through. I don't know what's happening. Oh, I know what's happening in the afternoon. Presbyterian worship. We could just worship all day. So, 10 o'clock in the morning, 4th Advent. Can't get to baby Jesus until we've had 4th Advent, correct? And then 6 p.m. on Sunday night, we have our first service, which I call Carols, Fun, and Community, I think, or something like that. You can see the name of it later. And then at 8 p.m., candlelight, communion. We light the candles, sing Silent Night at the end, and it's a communion service. So please take note of that. Listen, Christmas is the best time to invite friends to church. So grab a friend. You can imagine your friends don't want to be invited to church, but I can tell you there are a bunch of people just wishing they knew how to go to church on Christmas Eve. Just how do they step through that door? And all they need is for you to phone and say, do you want to come to church with me on Christmas Eve? We're going. Or mass email to all your friends, blind copied. Say, I'm going to church on Christmas Eve. Anybody want to come? Actually, I'm going at 10, 6, and at 8 if you want to come for the whole time, or just meet me at one of those, and that would be fantastic. I just wanted to mention then on the 31st, God love them, Stephen Ansley and the lovely Lindsay are going to be leading the service on the 31st. And then on January 7th, I wanted to give you the heads up that Reverend Deb will be preaching. And it's a communion service as well to start the new year. So just in case you're wondering, about communion dates, Christmas Eve. And I like to start off the new year with communion. Gayle's writing it down. Had you forgotten, Gayle? Yeah, it's good. Just wait. Now there will be communion on January 7th because Gayle has written it down. So come on January, just remember, January 7th, let's come back in our new year ways and enjoy communion and a lovely message from Reverend Deb. This time we take a moment to lift up words of celebration and in a bit words of concern. But if there are words of celebration or thanksgiving that you have on your heart, something that's happening, something you want us to know about, that you'd like to celebrate and lift up so that we can grow together as a community and live honestly in front of our God, words of celebration.
I'm just happy to announce, Nancy, you'd be interested in this. My middle son got engaged late yesterday afternoon to his longtime partner, so I'm very excited. So, David.
Nice. Other words of celebration?
I just wanted to celebrate the spirit and enthusiasm moving in this congregation. Last week, you took on a challenge to discuss the reconciliation matters. Our reconciliation team did a wonderful job leading. Not only have you had difficult conversations, but you came out with enthusiasm and energy and asked, how can we be a megaphone for this topic within the United Church of Canada? And I'm happy to tell you that you've done it already. Keep making those phone calls and contacting people, but Reverend Dave posted information that other congregations have picked up already. So thank you for everyone's energy and devotion to this. It's marvelous to see everybody embracing our new reality. Thank you.
"69 years ago today was the birth of our first of 3 wonderful children.
What was Tremaine 12 or something? I can't.
We're looking forward to our granddaughter who's in first year at McGill coming back for Christmas on Thursday. We're so excited. And I'm sure many in the congregation have children and grandchildren that will be coming home this week too. So it's very special.
I want to celebrate that on Thursday. I gathered with a small portion of the Rainbow Community Concert Band on Davie and Butte. I think it's called Jim Dava Plaza there. And we busked. You know, we played Christmas tunes from the old Salvation Army book, the little one. And we just had a riot, and it was, I considered a warm evening, and we just played our hearts out, and made a little bit of money, but more than that, just brought joy to the village, so to speak, and just had a lovely, lovely time. And I got to say, I was mindful this week. It's the first time I've belonged to a team since since the last time I was in a band 24 years ago. So it's the first time I've done something where I wasn't in leadership or on a committee or something, but just having fun. So I'm going to celebrate that as a big move in my life, and I can't wait to do it again next Thursday night, this Thursday coming up, 7:15-ish at Butte and Davie. Anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun, just really celebrating. Other words of celebration? Oh, Barb.
I just realized it's something to celebrate that I've got all my grandchildren here for a week, because both of Meredith's children from Washington, D.C. are with us for the whole week.
Are there words of concern today, things that are a little heavy on your heart or are worrying you that you'd like to lift up, people that we can hold in prayer possibly as the weeks come on?
I would just like to lift up a word for my Aunt Pam in Ottawa, who is in the early treatment of breast cancer, and this came suddenly out of the blue, but she's in a place where she gets great care, and we're hoping for the best.
Any other words of concern?
Just some prayers for my friend Pamela, who's in St. Paul's Hospital trying to get home for Christmas.
Well, I invite, while we hold all that joy and all those concerns in our hearts, and invite our Advent candlelighters to come forward.
How does a weary world practice joy?
By dancing and throwing birthday parties, by hanging Christmas lights and holding sleepy babies, by singing loudly and looking for good news, by telling the story of Jesus and showing up for our community.
There are a million ways to practice joy. So today, we light the candle of joy as a reminder and a charge. With God's help, may we bring joy into a weary world. Amen.
share with each other the joy of Christ to all. Mr. C. Is he coming up here to chat with me? I don't know. Maybe? I just have one question for him. Hey, here he comes. Hey, I'm wondering, could you tell me, do you know what this is? Do you know what this is on my wrist? Do you know what that's called? What is this? What's that called? It's called a watch. Did you know that? Do you know people who have a watch? It helps us find out what time it is. Like, is it time for lunch? Or is it time to eat a banana? Or is it time for your nap? Or is it time for bed or supper time? That's that. The nap was it. Walked right away. But watches are also, they're not just watches. What are they really? They're clocks, right? They're clocks that you wear around on your body. So, well, we used to wear around on our body. Tell you what time it is. I wear this one on Sundays only because I don't want to bring my cell phone to church. In case I get an important call from the CRA legal department. You've got, or Amazon, it says they tried to drop a package but couldn't if I just press button 2. So I don't want any of that to happen during worship. So I wear a little clock on my wrist. But clocks come in lots of different sizes, of course. There's little ones. There's slightly bigger ones. There's clocks like this. Look at that, see? Isn't that huge? It would look funny if I put it on my wrist and carried around. What time is it? Well, let me tell you. Oh my goodness, it's 10:30. Move along, preacher. Oh, there is a clock. Have you looked around for clocks in this building, in this space? There is a clock. Anybody know where it is? Yeah, everybody's. Guess what? We always call that the preacher clock, right? That's to tell you what time to get off, like to wrap it up, as my family does. This, wrap it up. The old clock. I grew up in a church without a preacher clock, actually. There was a beautiful image, still is, of the Good Shepherd, and no preacher clock. And preachers who'd come as guests always have said that. They'd appreciate that there wasn't a preacher clock rushing them off at Woodlawn United in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Anybody else know where there's other clocks in this space? See any other clocks other than the one on the back wall? Right here. We've got a real church clock. A church clock right here that tells us what time is it. What time is it? You look at this clock, tell me, what time is it? Advent, but what? Advent 3. It's the third Sunday of Advent of the 4 Sundays that lead to the birth of sweet baby Jesus, right? And here it is, 1, 2, 3. And last week we wrote just number 2 and number 1, and they were lit. We heard from the crowd. It looked like number 1 was not lit. It was. It just was low. But we lit the first one 2 weeks ago, this one last week. We're at the third one here. And you can guess, next Sunday morning, this one, and then Sunday evening, the gorgeous gold Christ candle. Because it's a clock, and it tells us something's about to happen. That the Christ is coming again and again and again in our hearts. But you have to wait. You notice how dark that final one now looks because the other 3 are ablaze, right? That's the anxiety. That's the impatience or the patience that and the waiting that it takes for Advent. That's that kind of clock. It's the church's clock. We light it every year. Sometimes it's a circle. Sometimes it's a candelabra up and down. And sometimes it's a straight across line, just like clocks in the world. They come in many shapes and sizes. But this clock, my favorite one, is the one that tells us that Jesus is coming again. I invite you to sing with me from Voices United, number 8, Lo, How Our Rose Ere Blooming.
Holy God, Christ with us. Once again we bow our heads. Once again we close our eyes. Once again we draw ourselves closer to you in prayer. Meet us here. Surround us with your loving presence. From sunrise to sunset, you fill us with awe. For that we pause to give you gratitude. Thank you for the way the sun shines through our windows, for the mist rising off the river, for the warmth of a cup of coffee, for the joy of returning home, for the beauty of a crowded table, and for the glory of a sky full of stars and snow geese. God, we are in constant awe of you. The story of Zechariah and Elizabeth reminds us that there is nothing you cannot do, and there is no grief that you do not know. For that we give thanks. However, even with this good news at hand, we know that there are many in this world who cannot find the energy to practice awe or wonder because they are so deep in grief. So today, gracious God, we pray for those for whom awe feels out of reach. Be with every parent who worries about a sick child. Be with every child who worries about a sick parent. Be with every person waiting on the doctor's phone call, waiting on the next month's paycheck, waiting for the next warm meal. Holy God, surround those with broken hearts who are trying to stitch the pieces together, praying that one day they might be able to feel awe again. All the while, we will keep gathering together and turning to you to remind us that you are the God of the impossible. You are the one who floods our world with awe. You are the one who knows our names.
Reading from Luke chapter 1, verses 57 to 66. Now the time came for Elizabeth to give birth, and she bore a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown his grace mercy to her, and they rejoiced with her. On the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him Zechariah, after his father. But his mother said, "No, he is to be called John." They said to her, "None of your relatives has that name." Then they began motioning to his father to find out what name he wanted to give him. He asked for a writing tablet and wrote, "His name is John." And all of them were amazed. Immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue freed, and he began to speak, praising the Lord. Fear came over all their neighbors, and all these things were talked about throughout the entire hill country of Judea. All who heard them pondered them and said, "What then will this child become?" For indeed the hand of the Lord was with him.
home. Okay, that wasn't one of David's Psalms. That was Charlie Rich. 1974, the Silver Fox album loomed largely in my childhood home. Later covered by the Notting Hillbillies, Mark Knopfler and the guys. I think about it every time I think about our theme. How does a weary world rejoice? Because it is a great psalm of weariness, thanks to Charlie. This is a wearying time of year for many. Have you just tried to drive around town? It's busy on the roads. How about getting to the airport? Takes a while longer. Used to be 8 minutes, now it's 15, even in the middle of the night. I tried it last night. Then there's the weariness that's being caused by world affairs. Too many to even speak of. I don't know about you, I sort of half pay attention and then really pay attention and then get weary and then stop paying attention and then open one eye and check back in again. How does a weary world rejoice? It's a great question for this Advent. There's a story by Reverend Cecilia D. Armstrong. She talks about the night where she was to present a sermon but had deleted said sermon from her computer when she went to retrieve it moments before the service among colleagues, which is the worst, preaching in front of colleagues. The sermon wasn't there. The sermon was called Surprise, Surprise, Surprise. Oops. She said, she named all the types of weariness that caused. Colleagues saying, well, I have one you could use, which just caused the weariness of inauthentic voice to come forward, and other types of weariness. She listed them, and she talked about crying, and she said to the Lord, you called me to this, and now I don't know what to do. I sure hope you show up. I say that every moment at about 5 minutes to 10 every Sunday. I sure hope you show up. And she says this, God did show up that night. Everything was fine. She said, I allowed myself to be amazed, and this, I sowed in tears and was able to reap with shouts of joy. I sowed in tears and was able to reap with shouts of joy. God is able. There's truly promise for the weary. It happened to Elizabeth and Zechariah. God found them in their weariness. God found them in a weary, broken down world among a weary, broken down people. It says that Elizabeth's neighbors rejoiced with her. It's a beautiful moment. And her neighbors, the baby's born, and the neighbors rejoiced with her. But then they pause. They pause, and it adds some drama to the situation about the naming. Even though it does lead to some mansplaining, there is a pause that adds dramatic power to the story. They turn to Zechariah for confirmation of the name, because they wanted to name the kid Zechariah. That's just what you do. Elizabeth said, we're naming him John. They said, John's not even a name in your ancestry or your whole lineage. Why would you name him John? So they turned to Zechariah, who couldn't speak, for the record, remember? So he got out a tablet and wrote, his name is John. And it says, quote, and all of them were amazed. I don't know if they're amazed that Zechariah knew how to write. I don't know if they were amazed that a husband and wife agreed on something. I'm not sure what they were amazed at. But they were amazed. Well, he has very nice writing. Yes, very nice. How amazing. I don't know what. But they were amazed. What I'm amazed at was nobody asked how did Elizabeth know the baby's name? Like, I've always wondered, how did Elizabeth know the baby's name? Well, obviously Zechariah knew how to write on tablets before this moment. And they had conferred somehow. I mean, there's lots of ways of getting that information. They had spoken to one another. Well, not spoken to one another. They had conferred with one another, I guess. Or maybe we're meant in the amazement to understand that Elizabeth also had been told what the name of the baby will be. It's a story of amazement, a story of awe. And this Sunday, we're going to intermingle the two because there's both in this story. It says there was fear and awe, they were rejoicing, and there was amazement. Zechariah writes the name. All of them were amazed, it says, because I think in this moment, they're all brought close to God. That's part of amazement. One writer suggested that awe, we'll say amazement as well, is often defined as a feeling of amazement in response to something vast, inspiring, overwhelming, or beyond our understanding. Let's try that again. Awe is often defined as a feeling of amazement in response to something vast, inspiring, overwhelming, or beyond our understanding. I would say amazement is awe that catches you by surprise. Off guard, so to speak. So let's think. The night sky. The night sky. Away from the city. The night sky. Niagara Falls, you ever been there? You don't have to do all the rides and all that gambling and all that other stuff. It's hokey. You could just stand by the falls. Oh my goodness, when you stand right at the edge there, the power is amazing. Or how about the first time you see the Rockies? Do you remember the first time you saw the Rocky Mountains? How about the 18th time? Never gets old. Trying to keep your eyes on the road when you're the driver, but you're looking at one of those mountains, Edith Cavell. Oh my goodness. As you go by, there's that part just east of Jasper. Oh, it gets me every summer. We drive it every summer now. We gave up on the Kicking Horse Pass. We go through Jasper, and then you come out of Jasper, and there's just cool mountain after cool mountain after cool mountain, and reduced speed limits. I just realized this summer, because they know everybody's looking, they're craning their necks. Good to go a little slower past the really beautiful mountains. Amazement does not pair well with driving, for the record. How about floating on your back during sunset? Have you ever done that? You ever floated on your back as the sun was going down? Get your whole body in so that the bugs aren't biting you? And you just float. With waves, without waves, still lake, beautiful ocean. Floating on your back at sunset, holding a sleeping child, hearing the ocean again for the first time. Because every time I hear the ocean, it really does feel like the first time I ever heard something so beautiful. Can you remember a time that you were truly amazed? Took your breath away, sent you off daydreaming, helped you feel close to God? Sharon Salzberg, a Buddhist author and mindfulness teacher, describes awe and amazement as the absence of self-preoccupation. I love that. It's the absence of self-preoccupation. It's when we forget ourselves. She argues that it can help silence one's inner critic as well. When we stop paying attention to ourselves, amazement happens. Thinking about amazement this week, I started thinking about my favorite guy, Doctor Who. I'm going to introduce Doctor Who to you. Now, first thing you need to know about Doctor Who is it's the longest running science fiction show in the history of humanity when it stopped in the 90s. And then it's continued since 2005. They revamped it, and it's been going on ever since. So it's the longest running science fiction show. You should know about it from the BBC. Second thing you need to know about the Doctor is he's an alien and a time traveler and has had many faces. All of these characters are, in fact, the Doctor. It's the true with preachers, too. I am, in fact, the Reverend Bob Smith, but just with a new face, all fresh and new. Oh, just go back for a second, Nina, just 1 second. So what happened, I just tell you the inside skinny on this. When the first Doctor, I think his name was William Hartnell, the actor, when he got dementia and was really kind of starting to not be able to act on the show, it was too soon to cancel the show. They had a good thing going. So somebody came up with the idea that doctors could regenerate and get a whole new body. But it would still be the same doctor inside the core, 800, 900, 1,000 years old. So now we have all these different doctors, different genders, different cultural backgrounds, They even let a couple Scotsmen in there. It's remarkable. So there's the doctor, all the doctors. Okay, the other thing you need to know about the doctor is he flies around in what looks like a blue police box from Britain, but it's really his spaceship that looks like it's one size on the outside, but inside is bigger. It's like, 18 buildings inside. It goes on and on and on forever. It's called the TARDIS. I'm not going to explain. But it got stuck. It was meant to be incognito as a police box in London once, and it got stuck in that skin, so to speak, in that disguise. Anyway, the TARDIS is very important to me. Every time I see it, it just makes my heart leap with joy. I got a tie. It's the first time I've ever been able to wear it because I'm talking about Doctor Who and worship. And let's see the next picture. We painted our door in Saskatoon, the TARDIS. We painted it like the TARDIS. We had that for 7 years or something like that. I went to the paint store and matched the color blue. And I said to the woman at the Home Depot, we're doing this for our kids. They're on vacation and they're going to come home and it's a surprise. We're doing it for them. And she went, uh-huh. Became very famous on Instagram, that one door, all over. People started showing it to our kids. Hey, you love Doctor Who. You seen this? And Summer and Molly are like, that's actually our door. 10th Street says it's not there anymore, but that's the TARDIS door. We had people have birthday parties in front of it and everything. That's how much we love. Well, okay, that's how much I love the TARDIS and Doctor Who. Let's see the next one. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. It's very faint. That was my favorite Doctor from the 80s. He's the fourth of the incarnations. That's Tom Baker, and he had a very long scarf, which reminds me. So I had my mother, because I love Doctor Who so much, I had my mother make me this scarf. There's only one person in this room, I think, who would remember this scarf from the good old days, and my friend Nancy, who's known me for over 50 years, is here. Tom Baker had a scarf. This one's 14 feet long, just in case you're wondering when it's stretched, and it's great for reserving seats at a theater. Everybody's getting popcorn, you just throw it down the aisle and reserve the seats. I wore this for years and years and years and years, all the way through university, wrapped around my pea coat, because I just so much thought that Tom Baker was so cool as Doctor Who. And he always had a pocket full of jelly babies. That's kind of like gummy bears. And boy, he was cool, and he could do everything. And so now, of course, not the right colors. The deal was, if I paid for the yarn, my mother would knit this. And I just think it's the greatest act of love, first of all. But also just ties me into the Doctor, because the thing about Doctor Who is that one of the core principles of the show is amazement and wonder. Doctor Who is always filled with amazement and wonder, and goes towards all alien life forms with amazement and wonder. Oh my goodness, look at you, you're beautiful, the Doctor will say. Or aren't you gorgeous? To whatever and whomever he's approaching. No matter how scared, the Doctor starts with wonder and amazement, because it helps reduce the fear of what's possible. And doesn't greet every alien, every person who looks different with fear and concern and nervousness, but with amazement. And I realized this week for the first time, that's what I really love about Doctor Who. The sense of wonder and amazement that constantly comes through in his actions and through the show's development and all the storylines. Such wonder, such amazement and zest for life in all of its ways. The thing with amazement is we need to allow it. We don't have to look at Tom Baker forever. The thing with amazement is we need to allow it to happen. The title for this week, this week in the theme of Advent is, we allow ourselves to be amazed. We allow ourselves to be amazed. And the theme writers did that purposefully, because we have to allow ourselves to be amazed. It's more than just stopping and smelling the roses, as people say. It's more than saying, well, last week's sermon was amazing. We have to be willing to fall open, willing to get past, I'd call, our adulting, and allow amazement to creep in. We need to not worry that we are amazed, or that it's immature, or that it's indulgent. Have you ever been about to be amazed and then thought, well, but somebody's watching, so I can't giggle at that, or I can't enjoy it? Or you've been amazed and you've held it to yourself, and then you've brushed on quickly, well, I must get on to my appointment. I must go jump in the car and get going here. I can't stop to be amazed. We're too busy. Too busy being grown up sometimes. Too busy with our own self-interest. We need to allow ourselves to lean in, because with amazement can come joy. Amazement can become joy. Elizabeth's friends rejoiced, it says. Sukairo is the Greek, which means to celebrate God's grace together. When we're amazed, it's important we allow ourselves to be amazed and we share it. You know, somebody said, yeah, every one of you is getting $1,000 for making it through this sermon. What's the first thing you would do? You'd go home and phone a friend or write somebody and say, you cannot believe what happened. I'm so amazed. I made it through the sermon. And 2, Reverend Dave handed out $1,000 to everybody who made it through. Right? Amazing. It's meant to be shared. Allow ourselves to be amazed. Share it. Because I think Elizabeth's friends had it right. The Greek has it right. To be amazed, to rejoice, is to celebrate God's grace together. We can find deep joy in the world's amazement. And we can share this joy. It's important, especially these days, because the world really, really needs it. May it be so. Amen. Let's sing.
Sweet
Family of faith, as you leave this place, you go into a weary world, so speak tenderly. Do the good that is yours to do. Choose connection. Hold on to hope and remember that God came and lived among us and you are God's beloved. So go rejoicing. The world needs it. Amen.